Shalom, everybody. Well, you know, Israel is a very stressful place these days with war in the south, war in the north, and who knows, war beyond our borders from afar. So I got this anti-stress punch me guy. Boom! And that's the way it will be. Well, greetings, VFI News supporters and anyone else watching this video. Israelis got something to smile about this week when yet another hostage was rescued from the terror tunnels of Hamas. This followed an amazing strategic victory against the Iranian-backed Lebanese terrorist group Hezbollah, which has pledged to severely punish Israel for assassinating their chief of staff last month. Iran's own threats of doom and fire for Israel have once again failed to materialize. All that and much more is just ahead on this week's edition of VFI News from Israel. Friends, I usually try to end these weekly reports with some good news, but this time the good news comes at the beginning. Farhan El-Kadi, an Israeli Arab man from the Bedouin community of Rahat in the Negev, and was one of the 251 people kidnapped into Gaza by Hamas on October 7th of last year, has been found and is alive and well. This father of 11 children, by the way, he was in captivity 11 months. He was a security guard at a packing factory in Kibbutz Magen on October 7th when he was kidnapped into the Strip. As he told his rescuers, he rarely saw the sun during his long months as a hostage and was very happy to see the soldiers from the Navy's Shayetet 13 unit and troops of the elite Yahalom combat engineering unit as they explored a Hamas tunnel early Tuesday morning. The existence of the tunnel had been discovered through intelligence work by the Shin Bet and was relayed to the IDF so they could check it out. They were hoping to find some hostages in that tunnel, but they didn't know specifically that Al-Kadi would be there, and he appears to have been abandoned by his captors on rather short notice when they realized that the IDF was closing in. The Shin Bet debriefed him to try and find out information which they hoped would lead to more hostages that they could rescue, and there might be more to report about that in the days ahead, so stay tuned. In the meantime, Al-Kadi was flown by helicopter to Soroka Hospital in Beersheba for a thorough medical examination, which resulted in his being declared to be in good health despite the poor conditions he was kept in. He lost a lot of weight. His family met him at the hospital and were overjoyed to see him, and he was released from the hospital to go home and be with them on Wednesday afternoon. This was not the first piece of good news Israelis got this week, but let me add one note that he said and referred to our army, meaning the IDF. He was praising them and so proud of our army, the Israeli army that protects both Jews and Arabs alike. This was not the first piece of good news Israelis got this week. On Sunday morning, many of us awoke to a pretty normal morning routine, but as soon as we opened the news apps on our phones, we got a shock. Many years ago, the U.S. Army had a recruitment commercial in which they said, quote, "We do more before 9 a.m. than most people do all day," unquote. Well, on Sunday morning, the IDF had done more before 5 a.m. than most people do in a month. That's because they'd received intelligence, probably from the Americans, that Hezbollah was getting ready to launch a massive strike on Israel, including IDF military bases, but also major population centers like Tel Aviv and Haifa. Dozens of launchers all over southern Lebanon had been loaded with rockets, and the plan was for all of them to open fire at precisely 5 o'clock a.m. But at 4:30 a.m., approximately 100 Israeli warplanes began attacking these launchers, destroying dozens, if not hundreds of them, along with an estimated 6,000 rockets. Anti-aircraft weapons and other Hezbollah military targets were also destroyed in the strike. I think they are not only stricken, they are in shock. Hezbollah did manage to fire a larger than usual barrage of rockets into the Galilee region following the Israeli preemptive attack. One of the UAVs Hezbollah launched was intercepted in the sky over a Navy patrol boat, and the resulting shrapnel wounded some of the crew, with one young soldier later succumbing to his wounds. I'm sorry to hear that. Otherwise, there was some light damage to a few civilian buildings from the barrage, and I'll have more to tell you about that in a moment. Of course, the planned onslaught by Hezbollah was meant to avenge the assassination of their chief of staff Fuad Shukr in Beirut last month. Hezbollah had pledged to avenge their leader, and Iran has also pledged to take revenge against Israel for the assassination a few hours later of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. Iranian officials have been making lots of fiery threats to attack Israel, but so far, as I'm filming this video, I can report that they haven't followed through on these threats. In fact, there have even been some statements by senior Iranian officials that make it sound like they're trying to walk back those threats and kind of wishing everyone would just forget they ever said anything. However, the other side of the ping pong table is that the Americans are warning that they could still attack at any time. Well, anyhow, concerning their comments in Iran, that's probably at least partly because the U.S. has deployed a very impressive force to the region and made repeated statements that they'd defend Israel against an Iranian attack if it comes. After Iran's humiliating failure to harm Israel in the missile attacks they launched in mid-April, Iran cannot afford to fire any more blanks. Their other enemies, including their own domestic opponents, already smell blood in the water. Also, their allies in Moscow and Beijing are surely telling them that when they do things that make them look ridiculous, it makes everyone in the alliance look ridiculous, and that's bad for business in the Middle East. Perhaps that's why Iran is just making threats and not taking any rash actions for now. But in any case, U.S. National Security spokesperson John Kirby told the press this week that the Biden administration believes Iran is still postured and poised to launch an attack should they want to do that, which is why the United States has enhanced force posture in the region. Quote, "Our messaging to Iran is consistent, has been and will stay consistent," John Kirby said. One, don't do it. There's no reason to escalate this, and there's no reason to potentially start some sort of all-out regional war. And number two, we are going to be prepared to defend Israel if it comes to that. Thank you, John Kirby. Now, I disagree with your boss on all kinds of things, but I'm grateful to him for taking this position. I should also mention that we're also grateful to the United Kingdom for deploying additional military forces to the region to deter Iran. However, even as Israel, our allies are staying on alert against possible trouble from Iran. U.S. Air Force General Charles Q. Brown, Jr., chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, told reporters after a visit to Israel this week that the threat of a regional war has diminished. He said that Israel's overwhelming show of force and intelligence dominance of Hezbollah had done severe damage to Hezbollah's ability to fight Israel. Go, team, go! And they know it. They don't want to fight Israel nearly as much as they did a week ago. He added that Iran still has to make a move or not, and that Iran's other proxies in the region might very well act out on their own if they are not yet satisfied with how things are going. He said in particular that the Houthis in Yemen are a wild card that could launch missiles and drones at Israel as they have done so in the past. Now, this is a good place to remind everyone that at Vision for Israel, we have several projects designed to care for and protect the people of Israel against these terrible threats. This includes the provision of bomb safety shelters, training and equipment for medical first response teams, civil defense volunteers, and others. We also have our own food warehouse at the Millennium Center here in Modine, where we have gathered large quantities of food and household supplies which we regularly distribute to people who need help, including Holocaust survivors, single mothers, people with disabilities, and people who are just going through a tough time. We also provide assistance to children who will be headed back to school in a couple of days, providing a backpack full of school supplies. There are no unimportant projects, but the bomb safety shelters and the assistance to medical first response teams and civil defense volunteers, including firefighting teams, is of particular relevance in this very difficult situation. And on that note, I want to repeat something here that I've said before about the reports that rockets land in open areas and cause no casualties or damage. I really hate that phrase because it's very misleading. Many of these rockets that supposedly didn't hit anything started fires that did an incredible amount of damage. And there's a lot to be said about that. In fact, according to the JNF, the Jewish National Fund, Over 25,000 dunams of wooded areas and farmland have been burned by these fires. Several buildings and vehicles have been destroyed. People have lost their homes and their businesses. The government's firefighting capacity is not large, and so most of the firefighting has to be done by civilian volunteers, usually residents of the towns and villages that are threatened by the fires. Now, we're providing protective clothing and other equipment to these volunteers, but we still need your help. This is another form of terrorism, environmental terrorism. So for any of you people out there that really care about environmental issues, this is another way that you can support and help through Vision for Israel. So please go to our website, to visionforisrael.com, and click on the Projects tab. And while you're there, sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media, and we would appreciate a thumbs up, and tell your friends to subscribe also. Now back to the news. And as I've said before, the rhetoric coming from Iran is both comical and terrifying. These guys are seriously out to lunch, folks, and it would be hilarious if it wasn't so dangerous. On Monday, even as General Brown and other U.S. and Western military intelligence officials were congratulating the IDF on a job well done in stopping Hezbollah and their attack before it could begin, Iranian officials were congratulating Hezbollah. Really? The statements by Iranian officials included the mind-boggling assertion that Israel had lost its deterrent power by failing to stop Hezbollah from launching a large barrage of rockets. Were these guys watching the same movie as the rest of us? Wow! Anyway, Colonel Anan Abbas, head of the control at the Northern Command Central Operations Room, told the Israeli news portal Ma'ariv on Tuesday that Sunday morning's preemptive strike was the result of months of planning and intelligence work. He continued by saying that Hezbollah is trying to assess the extent of the damage they've sustained. We attacked thousands of launchers and crippled Hezbollah's capabilities. It appears Hezbollah is still in shock. They're trying to comprehend the extent of the damage inflicted on them. Well, there's one more somewhat humorous side note to this story, because video footage was posted to the internet on Sunday afternoon showing a severely damaged chicken coop on a Galilee kibbutz that was apparently hit by a rocket. This prompted a flood of mocking commentary on Arabic language websites about the great Hezbollah chicken hunt of 2024 and Hezbollah's glorious victory over Israeli poultry. Well, be that as it may, friends, as many analysts have warned, Hezbollah might have taken a big hit, but they're still in the game, and I have no doubt that they're still looking for ways to attack Israel. So let's not be overconfident. And so don't stop praying into this situation, and if you can do more than pray, once again, I'll ask you to go to visionforisrael.com and click on the Projects tab. Most analysts believe that the fighting there is winding down, as Hamas doesn't have much left to fight with. They've lost most of their senior leadership and the majority of their trained fighters. Most of the weapons and ammunition they had at the beginning of the war has also been lost, and the IDF has demolished a lot, not all, of the tunnels that were built under the Strip as well. Even those tunnels that the IDF hasn't found and destroyed yet are mostly without electrical power or water supplies. And the Hamas fighters who are still down there must feel like they're sitting in their own graves. Many of them have already abandoned the tunnels and are instead now trying to hide among the civilian population of the Gaza Strip. According to unconfirmed reports, this even includes Yahya Sinwar, who is not only hiding above ground with civilians, he is hiding in women's clothing. This again is according to unconfirmed reports in various Arab media portals. In any case, Hamas no longer has an organized military force. The terrorists who are still trying to fight the IDF are mostly doing so in disorganized and uncoordinated hit-and-run strikes. Nonetheless, the IDF is reporting that it has captured, killed, or otherwise incapacitated dozens of these guys just in recent days. What remains is the negotiations with Sinwar over the release of Israel's remaining hostages. Sinwar is making completely unrealistic demands, and so far Israel's government is saying no. But there is great pressure on the government to say yes to the demands, and we'll see what happens. Frankly, this Israeli government, like many before it, rarely bows to public pressure about anything, for better or for worse. So I don't think there will be a hostage deal anytime soon, if at all. Trust me, Sinwar is not to be trusted, neither is Hamas. Now, we're all almost out of time for this week's report, so I'm just going to very quickly mention that the IDF has deployed large numbers of troops for the largest security operation in Judea and Samaria in several months. The Border Police, Shin Bet, and other security agencies are also involved in this operation, which has already led to the arrest of several known terrorists. Others who apparently didn't want to be taken alive have been killed in exchanges of fire with IDF troops. It's my sad duty to inform you that while this has been going on, there have also been several attacks made on Palestinian villages and individuals in Judea and Samaria by Israeli settlers. This is shameful and very foolish behavior that was rare in the past but has become more commonplace since a certain individual, because the Minister of National Security in Israel with authority over the police. I won't mention his name, but you know who I'm talking about. Last but not least, I need to mention that summer is almost over in Israel and it's finally starting to cool down a little. It's been a scorcher of a summer with heat records beyond and above, but it's coming down. But also a fair amount of damage has been done to the agriculture. That comes on top of the damage to the agricultural sector caused by the war, so please be in prayer about that. I would also like to mention our neighbors who have also had a tough summer, because I care about the whole Middle East. With record heat reported in Egypt, massive wildfires in Greece and Cyprus, and this week there were flash floods in the Saudi Arabian city of Medina, or Medina, however you want to pronounce it. As much rain fell in some parts of the city on one day, August 21st, as usually falls in an entire year. This sort of thing is becoming increasingly common all over the world, and I think we should expect weather-related problems here in Israel to increase going forward as well. Well, it's one more thing to pray about, and it's probably something Vision for Israel will be dealing with sooner or later, the environment. On that note, friends, thanks for watching. Really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. I'm Barry Segal, and this has been another edition of VFI News from Israel. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. God bless you and shalom from Israel.